a social club. We weren't going to do this topic, but then it all blew up. Jurgen Klopp has taken on the Nevilles head on. Good on you, Jurgen. We thought we'd discuss it because I think depending on what team you support and whether you're a good person, a bad person, a clever person or an idiot. There's two ways of looking at this, and we'll get into that in a moment. But anyway, just to give you get you abreast of what's been happening. Obviously, Liverpool's goalkeeper's terrible, and people have talked about it, particularly the Nevilles. Jamie Carragher had something to say on post-match shows, etc. Jurgen Klopp's hit back in his pre-Borough press conference, is that right?
Yeah.
To the pundits of former players, and a lot of them forgot, obviously, completely how it felt when they got criticised, and especially the Neville brothers. I have to say, the one who was a manager, I love it. I love how they're like Ant and Dec. Yes, Ant or Dec. He obviously should know that too much criticism never helps, but he's not interested in helping a Liverpool player, I can imagine. But that makes the things he says not more sensible. He showed he struggled with a job to judge players. So why do we let them talk about players on television? The only thing I can do is I don't listen to them. I'm pretty sure Carragher doesn't speak too positively about Man United players. Obviously, the Neville brothers don't like Liverpool, and if they can cause bigger problems than we already have, I think they'll try it. That's all. Now you have your headline. You're welcome. Great. Perfect. Thanks very much. By the way, you can tell him I'm not on Twitter, so if he wants to tell me something, Twitter doesn't help. First and foremost, I love it. Liam, you're all over the Nevilles, aren't you? I imagine, but I kind of like it. Some people could say, why talk about it at all? But it's not often that managers get to have their right to reply to pundits who cause them all kinds of fucking...
I find it quite funny that he actually got a rise out of him.
Yeah.
I never thought Klopp would rise to it. Ultimately, like, no matter what happens, Gary Neville is a football pundit, a well-respected football pundit for, I don't know what, going on 3 or 4 years now, regardless of what happened to Valencia. So Jurgen Klopp can say what he wants.
Yeah.
His job as a football pundit is to critique players. Karius has had a couple of bad games. I'm not saying he's the worst player on the planet, but he's had a couple of bad games.
Yeah.
And Neville's job as a football pundit has been to highlight the bad games. And it wasn't just him. It was, Jamie Carragher did the same thing. Maybe not to the same extent, but he still highlighted, highlighted that Karius had a couple of bad games. So, as far as me and hopefully the rest of the football world can see, that he did his job. And for Klopp to come out and say it, whether he was saying it sort of like tongue-in-cheek as in...
Oh, well, it's not like a piece of paper in hand reading through a list of Gary Neville's crimes.
These are the facts kind of thing, is it? But it's more about... No, I do see what you're saying, though. I think it's quite funny. You've got to take it for what it is. Exactly. He wasn't being serious.
Well, exactly, but this is the thing, isn't it? This is the first experience Gary Neville have had, and to be fair, I think it works both ways, doesn't it? Because let's have a pop at Gary Neville, because look,
because you can.
No, but exactly. But he's made his job. This is the thing about pundits, and this is not. And I don't think enough people ever go pundits back, if I'm perfectly honest, because. Well, look, Gary Neville opened himself up to being basically ridiculed because the second he stepped into the management, into the management role and fucked it up. Then, I think a manager who's actually at the top of his game or thereabouts has got every right to go, sorry, who the fuck are you? Because you can't
I think it's brilliant by him. First and foremost, it's the Nevilles that he's had a go at. That's great. That's fine by me. Totally up for that.
Yeah.
That's a nice surprise.
Secondly, though, he's shielding his player. No one's talking about Karius today. They're talking about Jurgen Klopp and the Nevilles. Yeah. And that's the most important thing. Mourinho's been lauded for this for years, for shielding his players and creating an insular little group around them and not letting the media get to them. That's all Jurgen Klopp's doing. He's just doing it his own way. His own way happens to be really funny and having a pop at Nevilles. Sound by me.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you reckon, Bob?
Your defenders need to shield Karius as well. I mean,
it's been quiet for 2 minutes.
Sorry about that. He has been poor though. He has been poor.
Absolutely.
But then, having said that, remember when De Gea first came?
Yeah.
He was poor as well.
That was said today on Talksport, actually.
I must admit, I've got a bit of sympathy for these guys. Neville is a good pundit.
Crap manager.
But I always feel a terrible manager. And that, for me, that has knocked a lot of shine for me off of his punditry, because when he starts going in hard on some of these players, I think to myself, hold on, well, about when you was a manager?
Yeah.
You were awful. You weren't just bad. He was terrible.
Yeah.
Yes,
so I think to myself...
Robbie's firing shots everywhere.
Yeah. And also, not just Gary Neville, I think a lot of these pundits in general, sometimes I find that the foreign players, like a Karius, they're easy targets to slate. I just wonder, would he have slated Joe Hart in the same way? When Joe Hart was having a nightmare,
Gary Neville,
like when Joe Hart,
Carragher and Neville's absolutely, definitely.
Gary Neville, and to a certain extent, Jamie Carragher as well, will go after anyone, regardless. Even Carragher's done it for Liverpool players.
Would he have gone in on Rooney?
Players.
Rooney's been having a bad time up until recently.
Would
he have gone in on Rooney so hard?
I think they would. I think they might have. I think the Neville's probably less so on Rooney because.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not on about Jamie Carragher. I'm on about the Nevilles.
The point
would they have gone in on Rooney as hard as what they've gone in on Karius?
No. And I think there has been question marks over his form. Whether they've been given the ammunition to go in that hard, it's a little bit more black and white with the goalkeeper.
I just like how, you know, again, you could take it. You know what I mean? You could shrug it off or whatever. But I kind of like because this is what it's all like. Because football ex-pundits are like this anyway. Because the ex-pundits, because I experienced work with a lot of them, and a lot of ones I've worked with have been dead sound. But there is a snobbery for people who worked in football and people who haven't worked in football. Well, once you get into that punditry position, it's like being untouchable because you're allowed to call people fucking dickheads left, right, and centre, and there's never any comeback to it. I love the fact that someone's gone, actually, you know what? Let's talk a little bit about your career for a change, actually, because I can. I've got every right. I've got a microphone and a camera pointed at me. Let's talk about Gary Neville for a moment.
Let's not even name him.
Let's not even name him because I probably doesn't even know the difference between the two.
See, I haven't said that though. That's what makes them good pundits. That's what makes Neville, Carragher, to a certain extent Souness, even though I never agree with what he has to say. That's what makes them good pundits, in that they're prepared to speak their mind. See the likes of the rest of them, like Jamie Redknapp and all, they're so bland.
No, but is it prepared? But I think there's a degree of that which is sound, but I think there's also a degree of sensationalism that comes with it, and I think there's a lot of easy targets.
So you think there's a lot of just to get their name out there?
I think there's a lot of low-hanging fruit. No, but it's true. It happens. Below pundits, I'm not just saying the Nevilles exclusively on this, like, because I don't think Phil Neville's. I don't think he's that insipid a character, like, but maybe Gary, like, but there's a lot of low hanging fruit in football punditry, and I think it's very easy to pick on that kind of thing. And the point that Klopp makes as well, and look, it's not their job to fucking to mollycoddle people who make a mistake, but it is a bit too easy. If you're a good pundit, and again, I used the example, I was talking on Redman, I used the example of Carragher. Jamie Carragher was a very average footballer for a lot of his career, and it wasn't until his mid-20s onwards when he really kicked on, and yet he's prepared to, he'll happily go out there and throw a player under the bus, and it just seems, I think that managers, Jurgen Klopp has got every right to kind of say, great to have your opinion, but, really, you're talking in such black and white terms. Yeah, you've got a lot of airtime. What's wrong with saying?
Would he have said the same thing if he hadn't managed before? Would he have said the same? That's the question. He didn't say it to Carragher. All right, Carragher didn't exactly slay Karius the way Neville did.
Well, he did. And Carragher should have got more. He should have been targeting Carragher as well, in my opinion.
But you have to say Klopp is spot on. He's saying to Gary Neville, basically, he's going, when you was in the position to manage, you got all this talk when you're doing punditry, but when you was in a position to do the management now, you're flopped. You were terrible.
But in a position like that, you can't tell the goalkeeper. What do you say to the goalkeeper? Save shots better.
No, hold on. Karius, let's have it right. Karius has been poor.
He's been poor, but I don't think it's been Klopp's fault.
I'm not saying that Gary Neville shouldn't criticise him, because that's his job, and I agree he should criticise him. All I'm saying is, for me, that management stuff he did, he's undermined a lot of his punditry to me, because I knew this was going to happen. That managers are going to turn around and say, well, hold on a minute. What about you? When you was in that position,
it was like us after we had that first Ball Street FC game.
It was exactly the same. How can we dare criticise anybody playing football ever again? Yeah, listen, it's all up there, it's not down there.
Yeah, Gary Neville, and let's not forget, Phil Neville's his assistant.
I know, yeah.
And they were awful, right? And now they got all this talk about Karius and other people and that. What about when they were? This is the point that Klopp's trying to make. When you were managing now, when you was in that position, how did you do?
I just, like I say, when it boils down for me, I just look. That's banter.
It has to be taken tongue in cheek.
Exactly.
Yeah. See, if it had been anyone else, only for Klopp is known for his personality like that, isn't he? Yeah. He's known that he's not vindictive or what's the word I'm looking for? Nasty in any way. It's supposed to be taken tongue in cheek. It's supposed to deflect, like Chris said, it's supposed to deflect the attention away from the goalkeeper who's had 2 bad games, and that's exactly what it's done. Yeah. And kudos to him for doing it. And I'm sure Gary Neville won't lose any sleep over it.
But as I said, I still think sometimes with some of the pundits, and I'm not just saying Gary Neville, I find in general, that when it's a foreign player, when it's a player from Spain or one of Turkey or whatever, they always seem to go hard on those.
Yeah. You're
when
right.
it's an
They
English
let
player,
Jack Wilshere off with a lot, don't they?
That's
what he's saying. Like
they've let Jack Wilshere off with a lot. They've let a lot of English players off with a lot.
years.
They've let a lot of English players. I don't know. Maybe obviously they know them. They're more familiar with them. They don't go in as hard.
I do. What it gets me, Chris, is that it's the absolutism of the football punditry in this regard. Is that, and that's the point Klopp's kind of trying to get across, is that young players are not perfect from day one. I said Carragher's just as bad as anyone for this, of being like, you need to get bombed out. Well, people putting tweets up, Jamie Carragher said a year was saying a Mignolet needs to get bombed out. If you're saying Karius needs to get bombed out, you're saying Mignolet needs to come back in, and yet you were writing Mignolet off 12 months ago. It's, you know what I mean? It's again, everyone's entitled to an opinion, but
what do you make of
Karius? It's absurd.
As a Liverpool fans, what do you make of Karius?
Yeah, he's bang average at the minute. Like.
Yeah, look, he's costing us points. He said that last week. He's costing us points. He's cost us 5 points in the last 2 games. He needs to improve, but I've seen Simon Mignolet for 3 years, and I know he's not the answer. So, and I've seen this kid for 10 games, and I'm quite happy to go, look, he's got a higher ceiling than Simon Mignolet. He at the minute, someone needs to put an arm around him, and managing goalkeepers isn't easy.
I remember,
especially young goalkeepers.
I remember watching Brad Jones for us, and you come in on. I've seen some dreadful genuinely dreadful goalkeepers, and you watch them and they're shaky and they're nervous, and everything they do, you're on edge. Karius isn't like that. He isn't like, he isn't a bag of nerves. He isn't. Everything he does isn't horrendous. He's just got a few mistakes in his game. Like, there's a point, we talked about this again, we did our final word show. There's a moment when the ball gets played over the top, Andy Carroll's toward the corner of the 18-yard box, and he just runs out and punches it. Like, he just sees the danger, deals with. That's good goalkeeping. He has elements of really good goalkeeping in his game, but he makes mistakes, and it's the fact that he's got some good. If he was just shite, that would be fine, because you can go, he's shite, but like anything, there's
I go back to the Hayek thing from the other week. He made a mistake the other week, and no one pulled him up against West Ham. You can see the goal. No one pulled him up, because everyone knows he's a good goalkeeper. Exactly. No one knows what Karius is like, so they're trying to formulate an opinion based on 10 games.
So I think the first 6 months at David De Gea at Man United, he wasn't terrible, but he wasn't. I mean, people were slating Ferguson, like, who's this kid you've signed? I remember the first game, he was home into West Brom, and he got bullied. Absolutely bullied. He wasn't in the game at all, wouldn't come and collect a cross. I think he made 1 save, but I'm not saying that the game was his fault that we didn't win or whatever, but I mean, it was nowhere near the goalkeeper he is now. It's not going to happen in the space of 4 to 6 to 10 games, like you're saying. You got to give him time, but I mean, he still deserves the criticism for having the 2 bad games he's had.
And you can criticise people, and this is the thing. This is when the pundits like Neville and Carragher and us and everyone, you look back at a game and you're looking for talking points.
Yeah.
It's an easy talking point. I understand it. We're now talking about people talking about something that happened on Sunday. It's insane, but we've got to fill airtime. Yeah.
It's like but
that's what they're doing. Do you know what I mean?
This is postmodern punditry at its finest.
Although those mistakes are costing you a lot of points. And I know, I look at Karius and he reminds me a lot of Szczesny, Wojciech Szczesny when he was at Arsenal, in that it seems like, yes, you can see the talents there, but the concentration levels.
Yeah.
And that's why the biggest difference I've found, like, since we've had Petr Cech in, is that he's like concentrated for the whole game. And I suppose that's a younger keeper, isn't it? You're young.
How many people could tell me how good Petr Cech was at Rennes? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyone know how good he was at Rennes? There might be. He's probably one smart.
Apparently he's brilliant.
Well, apparently so. Like, you know what I mean? Good enough to sign for Chelsea.
I used to sign him on one of the footy manager games, so I knew about him.
Carlo Cudicini used to sign.
Yeah, but I think, you know what?
Castel di Sangro or whatever.
Because they were my Italian team in Serie B.
But yeah,
Castel di Sangro.
This is the thing, isn't it? And I think there's some people will be going, ooh, I guarantee the people who don't agree with Jurgen Klopp taking that stance or saying what he said, I've either read it through a Twitter account that's put like this, oh, he's losing his mind.
Completely out of context.
Exactly. Or haven't actually physically watched it. I would highly recommend watching the video. This is Anfield. I've got it on YouTube. It's just hilarious. I love the dismissiveness. The hilarious dismissiveness.
And the fact that he says, there you go, I've given you your quote, your story or something. He says at the end.
Thanks for coming. There you go, brilliant. But yeah, there's any thoughts on that? Jurgen Klopp right to tackle the pundits. I completely think he is right to do that, but then again, am I just biased? Let me know. in the comments below.
Yes.
Give the video a like, of course, and click the Ball Street emblem on the screen right now to subscribe to the channel.